All right. Well, in this last section, we will take a look at solving some problems with respect to some of these the exchange problems, the quantitative problems connected with this chapter. So this is an example assignment from the course page, and we'll start with something pretty straightforward and work our way through some problems. So if we take a look here, we've got this question. So it says, suppose the direct quotation for euros to an American investor is 75.74, right? Meaning we would pay 75 cents to purchase 1 euro, according to this problem. So it would be the numerical value of the indirect quotation. Use 4 significant digits in your answer. All right, so conceptually, what are we doing? So if I pull, I'll do some little notes here. Oh, that's the wrong paint program. I mean, this will work fine. So, all right, so we've got the 75.74, right? And this is $75.74, right? Dollars per 1 euro, right? Euro. Okay, now we want the indirect quotations. The indirect quotation looks like this, right? 1 euro per dollar, I guess, dollar, but we want the 1 down here. So we have $1 is question mark euros, right? Question mark euros. So the way we do that is we flip it over, right? So I can say, okay, well, 1 euro is $0.7574. And right, so this is a number 1, right? This is a number 1 because if these are the same thing, right? I have 1 euro on the bottom and 75 cents on the top. That's the same thing. This is number 1. So upside down is also still a number 1, right? 1 over 1 is 1. So this is the same. But now I can get these numbers to cancel out. So I would say, if I fire up a calculator, I want to do 0.7574, flip it over, get some number, then I can copy and paste that. Okay, now before we check this, I'm going to do a check with a large language model. We'll use ChatGPT for this, although Meta AI probably doesn't work as well, but it's still useful. So let's just go ahead and feed this right into ChatGPT and see what it tells us. So this one, I think, is simple enough that the AI can understand it and do it pretty reliably. It falls apart pretty quick, but you will see even when it gives us wrong answers, it's pretty useful to look at what it does. So I'm just going to go ahead and just straight paste this into ChatGPT. And so, right, so this is the question. So the nice thing is it'll give you a good explanation, right? So it'll say, okay, this is the direct quote. The indirect quote would be a number of euros per dollar. And then it gave us this this content here. I'm curious why it's not. This usually renders as like mathematical notation. But it's saying, right, in effect, right, we want to do, instead of fractional dollars per 1 euro, we want fractional euros per $1. And that means doing 1 divided by 7574 and getting 1320 according to ChatGPT. So if we look at what we had 13203. And so we can be fairly confident that this works just fine. Now, I mean, this is important when you do this kind of thing. It might literally give you the completely correct setup and say, and therefore the answer is approximately 7, right? It will say 1 divided by 0.7574, which is right, and then give you a number that is wrong. So you can't really trust it to do any kind of arithmetic calculation. Sometimes it can do it, sometimes it can't. It loses track of where the decimals are, like which is the tens place and the hundreds place, and so it makes it make mistakes. But it's pretty good at giving you a reasonable setup, but it makes mistakes there too. But regardless, I think you'll see it's a good first step to sort of like throw this in here and sort of see what it'll tell you. But you got to have some humility about understanding that it rarely gets the numbers right and often gets a little confused on what you're supposed to do. So let's see. So this question 2 is another, right? This is a direct quote for Swiss francs for European investors. So it's in euros, and now we want to do it. And the indirect quote would be then SF, Swiss francs over euros instead of euros over Swiss francs. Same sort of question. So let's look at question 3. So suppose the direct quotation is this. Okay, so this is dollars to francs, right? Dollars to francs is there. And then dollars to euros is here. And we can ask, what is the numerical value of a direct quote to buy euros as a Swiss investor? So, right, so so let's do some bookkeeping here. So we know we have, what do we have? We have dollars per franc. So we have dollars per franc, SFR, and that's 75 cents per one, right? So that's a fact. We also have $1.2353, $1.2353, and that's dollars per euro, right? 1 euro. Okay, and what are we looking for? We are looking for a direct quote to buy euros as a Swiss investor. So how do we interpret that? I'm a Swiss investor. It's a direct quote. What does that mean? That means that the franc is on the top, right? So we have Swiss francs. We're buying euros. That's on the bottom. And then we need, right, we want this to be 1. And this is some number, right? So we don't know what that is. Okay, so that means we need to get Swiss franc on the top. Right here, it's on the bottom. So we would do 1 over 0.75, whatever that number is, 7583. Right, that would get us our SFR per dollar. And then now we have dollars on the bottom, but we want euros on the bottom. So I'm going to do dollars on the top, 1.253 divided by euros on the bottom. So I get my dollars to cancel. I've got francs over euros, but I have to do this calculation, right? So I have 1.253 or 2353, I guess, yeah, 2353, 1.2353 divided by 0.7583. So 1.2353 divided by 0.7583. That would be $1.63. Now let's just sanity check this, and it's not a buck because it's not dollar, right? What is it? It's Swiss francs. So let's see if this makes sense. We know that the Swiss francs cost 75 cents to buy, so they're on sale for Americans, right? So if I take some dollars, I can turn it into quite a few francs. And euros are not on sale. I can turn euros into a lot of dollars. So as an American, I will experience a decline in value, right? So I experience a decline in the total units of currency when I go to euro. And as a franc investor, I would experience a decline in the total units of currency as I switch from francs to dollars. So we have a decline both directions, but we experience it upside down, right? So it takes a lot of francs to buy a euro. This many, right? 1.69. Okay, so let's that's our 4 significant digits. I guess we have to round, right? To be careful. but there's a 0 after there, so we're good. Okay, so we can check this, but let's go ahead and see what ChatGPT has to say. And it will, says some stuff. All right, so it says the direct quote, 1 franc is 75 cents. That's right. Europe, 1 euro is $1.23. That's right. It says we should convert francs to dollars and then dollars to euros. That's all correct. Okay. So calculate the indirect quotation to. Okay, so we're going to say, okay, so this is not rendering as math, but you can see, so this is 1/7,583, which is approximately 1.319. And then we know that 1 euro is $1.23, so it's $1.23 times $1.319, and so we get $1.630, and so that's what we figured out here. So in this case, it did actually successfully do the math. Now, I tried before doing this lecture. I tried doing question 3 using ChatGPT, and it gave me the correct setup, mostly, but it got the direct indirect wrong. So it gave it to me upside down. It said the answer was something, but I had to do 1 divided by that answer. So what's even the point, right? If you are doing the work to do this, and it's great. It's a great way to check and also to see, okay, if this differs than what I did, then why, right? Do I believe it, right? If it says it's different than this, do I trust my work or do I trust this work? And so what's good to be able to do is to be able to reconcile and say, oh, I see where ChatGPT got confused. It's doing everything right except for this one step. If you can do that, right, then you can feel pretty confident you understand what's going on. But we'll try our 1.63 here. Oh, it's 1.629. So, 1.62903. All right, so hopefully we win here. We win. And this one is, okay, so notice, right, so this is a direct quote and a direct quote, and what would be the numerical value of a direct quote. So now, right, we're going to change it up a little bit. It's very similar, but right, we have an indirect quote. We have the francs here. And we have an indirect quote, European quote for euros here. And then we wanted a numerical value of a direct quote to buy euros as a Swiss investor. Okay, so I'm going to do the ChatGPT version of this one and see what it tells us. And we got to check the logic here. So, right, so it's the indirect quote, francs to American is 0.8447, right? So it got that, right? It's got $1 to is 0.8447 francs. So that is accurate, right? And then the $1 is 0.12299 euros. That's right. So now it's going to do some converting, right? So it's saying convert the indirect quotation for Swiss francs to a direct quotation. So we would need to do 1 over that. So we've got 1.1836. And what is this? This is now, instead of francs to dollars, this is dollars to francs. It costs $1.18 to buy a franc here in this data. So if I'm taking notes here, we're saying, according to ChatGPT, here, I'll do it. Excuse me. So we have $1.18 to francs. 1 franc. Okay. That's a fact. Also, all right, as it says, we've got an indirect quote is a 1.23 euros per dollar. So if we want dollars per euro instead of euros per dollar, we have to do this upside down. And we should actually probably do this math just to make sure. 0.8447, right? 0.8447. Flip it upside down. 1.184. Yeah, 1.183. Yeah, so it's not quite it, right? This is a little off. 0.8447. So, right, 1.1838, 1.1836. So yeah, you want to use the real right thing. So right, even a simple division problem, it can go off the rails and not quite get it. So I don't think, yeah, that's not a thing we can do, but 1.1839. 1.1839 is actually what is here. Okay. All right, so now let's look at the other half of this. So it's saying the indirect quote. So now we're getting 81 cents per euro, right? 8.8, that because we've gone to a direct quote. And does that make sense, right? We're claiming that it costs $1.20. No, so 1.23 euros to buy $1. So it should cost, yeah, about 80 cents to buy €1 in this data. Now I don't trust this math, so I'm going to do it. 1.2299. 1.2299. Flip it over. 0.8131. Okay, well, close. So 0.8131 is what? That is our, right? So what are we saying? So it used to be euros to dollars. Now it's dollars to euros. So we pay 81 cents to get a euro, right? So now the question is, which of all these things do we actually want, right? What are we trying to do? So we are trying to find euros as a, wait, and it says we want a direct quote. So we want SFR over euros, right? Our goal is Swiss franc over euro. Okay, so where's the Swiss franc on top? The Swiss franc is not on top, but we do have this one, right? So we can get the 0.8131 is going to be involved, right? Because that's going to get us our dollars over euros. And these dollars are going to cancel because we're going to have another thing that's something over dollars. And so that's our 1.1835 under 1 SFR, right? So that will get our dollars to cancel. And so we should have 0.8131 divided by 1.1835. And is that what ChatGPT did? So it's got this number, and it said to take 1.1836 and divide by 0.8132. And we've got 0.8131 divided by 0.1835. So there's this. We want to divide by let's get 1 divide by 0.1835. Or 1839. .6868. So let's see if we know what we're doing. All right, that's correct. What did ChatGPT tell us? ChatGPT says 1.455. 1.455. Okay, so why did it get it wrong? So that this is wrong, this is wrong. So what happened? What happened? So we have this, right? So this is right. So this is saying, right, so this has francs to euros, and it has the 1.1836 on the top and the 0.8132 on the bottom, but that's upside down, right? It got these flipped somehow. Like over the yeah, just right. It's not perfect, so it got things flipped, and so this is this. And in fact, I think if we took what we got and flip it upside down, you get that number. There's our 0.4. It's 456, not 455. The point is, right? It got it. It's wrong. It didn't do it right, but it's close. It's close. So it's it can be helpful to sort of help get you starting to structure, or you can think critically about each of these pieces. But anyway, ultimately, for this one, we had to do it on our own to get it. Okay, so let's think about this next one. So we've got, well, let's pause for now, and I'll come back. I'm gonna do a second video with working through some of these longer problems from 5 to 10.